classroom door exploded off its hinges with a thunderous crack that shook the entire second floor. 23-year-old Harmony Granger froze mid-sentence at the whiteboard as Harold Pottery's massive frame filled the doorway. 6 foot 4 inches of pure rage. Muscles rippling under his too-tight Jefferson High football jersey. Blood dripped from his knuckles onto the linoleum floor. "Wrong room. Meet," he growled, his voice like gravel in a blender. "This is my territory." The 5 remaining students in her advanced literature class scrambled backward, chairs screeching against the floor. One girl whimpered. Another boy's hands shook so violently, his pencil clattered to the ground. But Harmony didn't move, didn't even blink. She simply set down her dry erase marker with deliberate slowness, the soft click echoing in the suffocating silence. "Actually, Harold," she said, her voice steady as a surgeon's hand. "According to my contract, this is room 203, my classroom, and you're interrupting Shakespearean analysis." Something flickered across Harold's scarred face. Not kite surprise. More like curiosity. Teachers at Jefferson High didn't talk back. They survived. They submitted. They ended up in the hospital. Just last week, old Henderson had tried to confiscate Harold's brass knuckles. They found him stuffed in a supply closet. 3 ribs cracked. Begging for early retirement. Harold stepped into the room. Each footfall deliberate. Predatory. The fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across his face, highlighting the jagged scar that ran from his left eyebrow to his jaw. A souvenir from his father, people whispered, or maybe from one of his underground fights. Nobody knew for sure. Nobody dared ask. "You must be the fresh meat," Harold said, circling her like a shark scenting blood. "The one they hired to replace Johnson?" He laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Johnson lasted 6 weeks. Personal record. Want to know what I did to him?" Harmony's hazel eyes tracked his movement, but her body remained perfectly still. Something in her stillness felt wrong to Harold. Teachers trembled. They sweated. They bargained. This one just watched, like she was analyzing him, like she was waiting. "I'm aware of Mr. Johnson's medical leave," Harmony said calmly. "Now, as fascinating as this testosterone display is, I have students to teach. You can see yourself out." The room went arctic cold. Harold's crew, 7 thick-necked boys who'd been hovering in the doorway, sucked in their breath. Nobody dismissed Harold Pottery. Nobody. "Nah," Harold said, his voice dropping to a whisper that somehow felt more dangerous than a shout. "I don't think you understand how things work here. See, Jefferson High is my school. These hallways, my kingdom. These classrooms, my territory. And you?" He leaned in close enough that Harmony could smell the stale energy drink on his breath. "You're just another substitute teacher playing hero. They all think they can fix things, save the poor inner-city kids." His grin was all teeth, no warmth. "They all learn." "Are you finished?" Harmony asked, picking up her marker again. "Because Hamlet's Act 3 isn't going to analyze itself." Harold's eye twitched. In 3 years of unchallenged reign, nobody had ever been this dismissive. His massive hand shot out, grabbing for her wrist. It never connected. Harmony moved like water, flowing away from his grasp, with an economy of motion that spoke of years of training. Harold's hand closed on empty air. He blinked, confused. Teachers didn't move like that. Teachers cowered and cried and, "Don't," Harmony said quietly. One word. But something in the way she said it made Harold's crew take an involuntary step backward. The moment stretched taut as a piano wire. Harold's face cycled through emotions. Confusion. Anger. And then, surprisingly, interest. He'd been the apex predator at Jefferson High for so long he'd forgotten what it felt like to meet something that didn't immediately show its throat. "You're different," he said, tilting his head like a curious pit bull. "That's unfortunate. See, different doesn't last here. Different gets broken." He turned to leave, then paused at the destroyed doorway. "Ask about the last teacher who thought she was different." "Oh wait." His smile was shark-like. "You can't. She doesn't talk anymore. Welcome to Jefferson High. Fresh meat. Try to last the week." He stalked out, his crew trailing behind, like hyenas following a lion. The classroom remained frozen for 30 seconds after they left. Then Luna Goodlove, a tiny sophomore with paint-stained fingers and eyes too old for her 16 years, whispered, "Miss Granger, you should leave. Now, before he comes back." Harmony looked at her 5 remaining students. Luna, pressed against the wall. Mason Campbell, quarterback wannabe who'd chosen books over Harold's crew. Sierra Mitchell, brilliant but broken, her left arm in a cast that everyone knew wasn't from falling downstairs. Phoenix Turner, scribbling furiously in his notebook, documenting everything. And Faith Williams, the pastor's daughter who wore her defiance like armor. "We're not leaving," Harmony said, her voice gentle now, "and neither am I." Now, who can tell me about the parallel between Hamlet's rage and the cyclical nature of violence? But even as she resumed teaching, her mind was calculating Harold Pottery, 17 years old, 230 pounds of muscle and fury, 3 expulsions overturned, 7 teachers hospitalized, 0 consequences. What they didn't know, what her carefully bland resume didn't show, what her ordinary name and unremarkable appearance hid, was that Harmony Granger had faced monsters before. Real monsters. In cages where the only rule was survival, where referee stoppages came too late, where opponents didn't tap out because unconscious bodies can't tap. She'd left that world behind at 19, swearing never to unleash that version of herself again. But looking at Luna's terrified eyes, at Mason's shaking hands, at the broken door that represented everything wrong with Jefferson High, Harmony felt something stir in her chest, something she'd buried under lesson plans and teacher certifications and promises to do better. Be better. Harold Pottery thought he was the apex predator. He was about to learn what happened when you cornered something truly dangerous and threatened its cubs. The next morning arrived, wrapped in thunderclouds that matched the mood inside Jefferson High. Harmony stood in the faculty lounge, watching steam curl from her coffee while 3 teachers whispered furiously in the corner. They kept glancing at her, their expressions a mixture of pity and morbid curiosity. "Fresh meat doesn't know." "Mrs. Henderson muttered, her arm still in a sling from her husband's encounter with Harold. "Nobody told her the history." "Someone should," replied Rodriguez, the math teacher who'd learned to schedule bathroom breaks whenever Harold roamed the halls. "It's only fair." Finally, ancient Mrs. Charleston, who'd survived 37 years at Jefferson through a combination of selective blindness and strategic deafness, shuffled over. Her weathered hands shook as she poured coffee, but her voice was steady. "Sit down, child," she said to Harmony. "You need to know what you're up against." Harmony sat, noting how Charleston chose the chair facing the door, a survivor's instinct. "Harold Pottery isn't just a troubled student," Charleston began. "He's a system. 3 years ago, his father Marcus got released from federal prison. Armed robbery, assault, attempted murder. The kind of man who collects pain like baseball cards. He moved back here. Started his business. Protection rackets. Underground fights. Worse things we don't talk about." Rodriguez joined them, his nervous energy making him fidget with his tie. Harold was 14 when Daddy came home. Sweet kid. Before that, believe it or not, quiet, even helpful. Then Marcus started his training, making a man out of him, he called it. We watched that boy transform into something else. Something. He searched for words. Inevitable. Like watching a car crash in slow motion. "The school board knows," Henderson added bitterly. "The police know. Everyone knows. But Marcus Pottery has connections, judges who bet on his fights, cops who get a cut of his protection money, and Harold? He's untouchable. Literally. Last year, 3 teachers tried to stand up to him. Johnson got his ribs broken. Samantha Torres. She doesn't speak anymore. And David Kim?" She paused, swallowing hard. "Intensive care for 2 weeks. Brain swelling. He teaches at a nice suburban school now, when he remembers how to tie his shoes." Harmony sipped her coffee, processing. "And the students?" Charleston's laugh was bitter as black coffee. "The ones who can afford it transfer. The ones who can't, they pay $50 a month for protection. From Harold. It's brilliant. Really. Pay him not to hurt you." "Don't pay?" She gestured vaguely. "Luna Goodlove's parents can't afford it. You saw her arm last month?" Harold's warning. Mason Campbell refused to join his crew. Broken nose. Twice. Sierra Mitchell tried to report him. Cast speaks for itself. The protection money, Harmony said slowly. $50 per student. How many students at Jefferson? 800. Rodriguez whispered. Do the math. Even if only half pay. 20,000 a month. Harmony finished. 240,000 a year. Tax-free. Split with daddy. Of course. Henderson added. Marcus takes his cut. Uses Harold as the enforcer. Keeps his own hands clean. Plausible deniability. The morning bell rang. Sharp and demanding. The teachers scattered like roaches when lights turn on. Only Charleston remained. Her ancient eyes studying Harmony with something like hope. Or maybe pity. You seem like a nice girl. She said finally. Smart. Idealistic. Those types don't last here. My advice? Keep your head down. Teach your lessons. Don't make eye contact. And whatever you do, whatever that boy does, don't fight back. Fighting back is what breaks them. But Harmony was already thinking about Luna's paint-stained fingers, about Mason's love for literature, drowning under fear, about Sierra's brilliant essays, written with her non-dominant hand, about children paying protection money in an American high school while adults looked away. Mrs. Charleston, Harmony said quietly, what if someone did fight back? What if someone wasn't afraid? Charleston's face went pale. Then God help them, because nobody else will. The faculty lounge door slammed open. Harold filled the frame, his bulk blocking the morning light. His eyes found Harmony immediately, and his smile was winter cold. Morning announcement, he said, voice carrying like a threat. Fresh meat in room 203, thinks she's special. Thinks she's different. He cracked his knuckles, the sound like breaking bones. Let's see how special she is when her classroom becomes unavailable. He left, whistling tunelessly. Charleston gripped Harmony's wrist with surprising strength. Don't, she whispered urgently. Whatever you're thinking, don't. This isn't a movie. Heroes don't win here. They get carried out on stretchers, but Harmony was already moving, already planning, because what Charleston didn't understand, what none of them understood, was that Harmony had been carried out on stretchers before, had woken up in hospital rooms with machines breathing for her, had counted ceiling tiles, while doctors discussed whether she'd walk again. She'd survived all that, thrived, even, and she'd done it in places where the referees were bought, where the crowds bayed for blood, where mercy was weakness, and weakness was death. Harold Pottery was about to learn the difference between a bully and a warrior, between someone who fought for pleasure and someone who fought for purpose. Room 203 was a war zone when Harmony arrived. Desks overturned, books scattered like fallen soldiers. Her whiteboard bore a message in red spray paint. Fresh meat expires today. The stench hit her next. Something rotting. She found it in her desk drawer. A decomposing rat. Maggots writhing in its belly. Biological warfare. She murmured, almost amused. Creative. She spent 20 minutes setting the room to rights, humming softly as she worked. Students gathered in the hallway, peering through the doorframe. None interred. The brave ones from yesterday were notably absent. Only Luna stood at the threshold, clutching her books like a life preserver. You came, Harmony said, not looking up from arranging desks. Luna's voice was barely audible. I wanted to warn you. He's planning something. During your third period, when you have the most students, let him plan. Harmony tested a marker on the cleaned whiteboard. Still worked. Are you coming in or conducting class from the hallway? Luna took one tentative step inside, then another. Like crossing a minefield, she made it to her desk and sat down, spine rigid with fear. Why aren't you scared? Luna whispered. Harmony finally looked at her, really looked. Saw the bruises hidden under makeup, the way she held herself, protecting her ribs, the finger-shaped marks on her upper arm. Fear is a choice, Harmony said gently, and I choose differently. When did he hurt you? Luna's eyes went wide. He fell? Luna. Harmony's voice was soft but firm. I know what grab marks look like. I know how bodies move when ribs are bruised. When? The girl's composure cracked. Tears spilled down her cheeks, leaving tracks in her carefully applied concealer. Last week, my parents couldn't. The payment was late. He said it was interest. Said next time it would be worse. Show me. Luna lifted her shirt slightly. Purple-black bruises painted her ribcage like a twisted sunset. Harmony's jaw tightened imperceptibly. Did you report it? A bitter laugh. To who? Principal Stevens? He hides in his office. Nurse Johnson? She's on Harold's payroll. Writes up every injury as accidental. The police? Officer Curring's son is in Harold's crew. Your parents? Work 3 jobs each just to pay rent. Can't afford lawyers. Can't afford to move. Can't afford anything except hoping I graduate before. She trailed off. Before what? Luna looked away. Before he decides bruises aren't enough anymore. The morning sun slanted through the windows, highlighting the dust motes, dancing in the air. Somewhere in the building, a locker slammed. Normal high school sounds, except nothing about Jefferson High was normal. Luna, Harmony said carefully. I need you to trust me. Can you do that? The girl nodded slowly. I'm going to ask you to do something that might seem strange. Document everything. Take pictures of your bruises. Write down dates, times, witnesses. Keep copies in multiple places. 1 with me. 1 hidden at home. 1 with someone you trust outside school. Can you do that? Why? Nothing ever happens to him. Because patterns matter. Evidence matters. And sometimes, the right person just needs the right ammunition. More students began filtering in. Not many. 7 where she'd had 25 yesterday. They moved like prey animals, constantly checking the door, waiting for the predator. 3rd period arrived with the inevitability of a storm. Harmony had 12 students. Her fullest class. She was midway through explaining metaphorical language when the lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in hellish red. The door opened slowly, theatrically. Harold entered first, followed by his full crew, 7 boys, each one broader than the last. They spread out, blocking exits. Lesson time, Harold announced. Fresh meat needs to learn about the food chain. He moved to her desk, picked up her lesson plan, and held it up. See this? This is what happens to teachers who don't know their place. A lighter appeared in his hand. The papers caught fire instantly. He dropped them in her metal trash can, watching them burn with satisfaction. Oops, he said flatly. Accident. Shame you'll have to redo all that work. Unless, he stepped closer, you decide to be smarter. Transfer. Today, Stevens has the paperwork ready. Sign it. Leave. And this ends clean. No. 1 word. Soft. But it landed like a punch. Harold blinked. What? No. Harmony moved to the trash can, using a water bottle to douse the flames. I don't transfer. I don't run. And I don't abandon my students. She looked directly at Luna. At Mason, who'd snuck in despite everything. At the 12 brave souls who'd risked Harold's wrath to learn. These students deserve an education. They deserve safety. They deserve better than you. Harold's face went through a fascinating series of color changes. Red to purple to almost white. Nobody had ever, in 3 years of reign, simply said no. They bargained. They begged. They threatened back. But a calm, simple refusal? It broke his script. You stupid. He grabbed her desk, flipping it with one hand. It crashed against the wall, scattering papers. You think you're some kind of hero? Some Michelle Pfeiffer dangerous mind savior complex having... Actually, Harmony interrupted. I prefer stand and deliver. Better character development. Someone, possibly Mason, choked on a laugh. Harold's head snapped toward the sound, and Mason shrank back. Something funny. Bookworm? Harold advanced on Mason. Maybe you need another lesson about choosing sides. That's when Harmony moved. She didn't hurry, didn't run. Simply walked to place herself between Harold and Mason. The height difference was almost comical. Harold towered over her by a foot and outweighed her by 100 pounds. David and Goliath. If Goliath had facial scars and prison tattoos, you want to hurt someone? Harmony said quietly. I'm right here. Harold studied her, genuinely puzzled now. You're actually crazy. You know that? Touched in the head? I break teachers. It's what I do. It's what I'm good at. And you're standing here like... He paused, searching for words. Like you think you can stop me. I don't think... Harmon replied. I know. The crew laughed. Nervous. Hyena laughs. But Harold didn't. Because something in her voice, in her stance, in the way she'd positioned herself, it was familiar. He'd seen it before. In his father's fights, in the underground rings where technique mattered more than size. The way she balanced her weight, the way her hands stayed loose but ready. The way she watched not just him but all 7 of his boys simultaneously. "You ever fight?" he asked suddenly. "Define a fight." "I mean real fighting. Not some cardio kickboxing soccer mom nonsense. Real fighting. Where people bleed." Harmony smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Once or twice." "Prove it." "No." That word again. Harold's eye twitched. "You know what? Forget the transfer. Forget the easy way. You want to play hero? Fine. Tomorrow. After school. Parking lot. You and me. When I'm done, you'll be begging Stevens for that transfer. If you can still talk, I don't fight children." Harmony said simply. The insult landed like a slap. Harold's crew made collective ooh sounds. His face went nuclear. "Children?" His voice cracked slightly, betraying his age for just a moment. "I've put 3 teachers in the hospital. I run this school. I make more in a month than you make in a year. I'm not a child." "No." Harmony agreed. "You're a scared little boy whose daddy beats him. So he beats others. You're a cliché wrapped in muscle and scar tissue, and you're boring me. So either sit down and learn something, or leave. But stop wasting my time and theirs." The silence that followed was deafening. Harold's fists clenched and unclenched. Veins stood out on his neck like cords. For a moment, violence hung in the air like smoke. Then he smiled, slow and cold and promising pain. "Parking lot. Tomorrow, 3 p.m. Everyone watches." He turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and fresh meat? Wear something nice." For the ambulance photos, they filed out like a funeral procession. When the door closed, 12 students exhaled simultaneously. Luna was crying silently. Mason's hands shook as he picked up scattered papers. But they stayed. All 12 stayed. "Miss Grainer," Sierra said quietly. "Nobody's ever talked to him like that. Nobody's ever." She struggled for words. "Made him look small." "He is small," Harmony replied, setting her desk upright. "All bullies are. They just convince others they're giants." She looked at each student. "But here's the thing about giants. They fall harder. He's going to kill you," Phoenix stated matter-of-factly, still scribbling in his notebook. "Like, actually kill you. His dad killed 2 people. Everyone knows it. Never got convicted. But everyone knows. I appreciate the concern." Harmony began collecting scattered books. "But I need you all to trust me. Tomorrow, things change. Not just for me, for all of you, for this whole school." "How?" Faith demanded. "How can you be so sure? You don't know what he's capable of. What his father teaches him, the things he's done." Harmony paused in her cleaning, looked out the window at the parking lot where tomorrow's confrontation would happen, where everything would change, where years of buried skills would resurrect. "You're right," she said finally. "I don't know what he's capable of." She turned back to them, and something in her eyes made them all sit straighter. "But he doesn't know what I'm capable of either, and that's going to make all the difference." The rest of the day passed in a blur of whispers and stares. News of the confrontation spread like wildfire. By lunch, the entire school knew. By final bell, bets were being placed. The odds weren't in Harmony's favor. 100 to 1 against. Higher, in some corners. Harmony stayed late, grading papers in her repaired classroom, normal teacher activities. Except her hands never trembled. Her focus never wavered. She was a woman preparing for war while maintaining the illusion of peace. Around 6 p.m., a shadow fell across her doorway. Ronald Winters, Harold's right hand. Smarter than the others. More observant, he entered cautiously. Hands visible. No threat in his posture. "Can I help you, Ronald?" Harmony didn't look up from her grading. "I wanted to." He paused, choosing words carefully. "Look, what happens tomorrow? It won't be fair. Harold doesn't do fair. His boys will jump in if you start winning. Weapons might appear, and after, even if by some miracle you walk away, his father will come. And Marcus Pottery doesn't send messages, he sends people to morgues. Your concern is noted." Ronald moved closer, lowering his voice. "You don't understand. I've seen Harold hurt people, really hurt them. He enjoys it. Gets this look in his eyes like his father gets. Empty. Cold. He doesn't stop when people tap out, doesn't stop when they beg. Only stops when they stop moving." Harmony finally looked up. "And you're telling me this? Why?" "Because," Ronald struggled. "Because you're different. Not in the naive new teacher way. Different, like you're not prey. And that interests me. See, I'm smart enough to know Harold's reign won't last forever. Smart enough to position myself for whatever comes after. And something tells me you might be that after you're hedging your bets. I'm surviving. It's what I do. He placed something on her desk. A flash drive. Everything's on there. Every beating. Every protection payment. Every crime for 3 years. Videos. Audio. Documents. I've been collecting it all. Insurance. Maybe it's time someone used it. Harmony pocketed the drive without examining it. Why not use it yourself? Because I'm a coward. Ronald said simply, I follow strength. Always have. For 3 years, Harold was the strongest. But tomorrow, he studied hair. Tomorrow might change the math. He left as quietly as he'd come. Harmony sat in the empty classroom, feeling the weight of the flash drive in her pocket, evidence, ammunition, justice in digital form, but justice would have to wait. Tomorrow was about something more primal. Tomorrow was about proving that strength wasn't about size or fear or daddy's reputation. Tomorrow was about showing 800 students that bullies could fall. Tomorrow was about resurrection. She locked up around 7, walking through empty hallways that echoed with ghost sounds, lockers slammed by phantom hands, whispers of past victims, the architectural bones of a school that had forgotten how to protect its children. In the parking lot, she found Harold waiting by her car, alone. For once, leaning against her Honda Civic like he owned it. The setting sun painted him in shades of red and shadow. Wanted to give you one last chance, he said as she approached. This doesn't have to happen. You could leave tonight. Never come back. I'd even call off the beating. Professional courtesy. That's generous. Harmony kept her tone neutral. Keys ready in her hand. I'm not a monster, Harold said, and for a moment, he almost sounded like the 14-year-old boy he'd been before Marcus came home. He stopped. Started again. You know my dad's coming tomorrow? He heard about you, about how you talk to me. He's interested. That's bad for you. When Marcus Pottery gets interested, people disappear. Your father doesn't scare me. He should. Harold pushed off her car. Moving closer. He's killed people. With his bare hands, I've watched him do it. In the basement, where he trained me. You think I'm bad? I'm nothing compared to him. I'm just practice for what he's creating, and what's that? A monster. The word came out broken. A perfect, unfeeling, unstoppable monster. Someone who hurts without thinking, who destroys without feeling, who wins without mercy. His voice dropped to almost nothing. Someone like him. For a heartbeat, Harmony saw him clearly. Not the terror of Jefferson High. Not the bully who'd hospitalized teachers. Just a damaged boy shaped by a worse monster. A victim who'd become a victimizer, the cycle spinning endlessly forward. It doesn't have to be that way, she said softly. His laugh was bitter as winter wind. Yeah? You going to save me? Fix me with the power of education and compassion? I've had 12 therapists. 4 psychiatric holds. More medication than a pharmacy. Nothing fixes what's broken this deep. Maybe not, but that doesn't mean you have to break others. Yes, he said simply, it does. Because if I'm not the one breaking, I'm the one being broken. And I've been broken enough. He straightened. The moment of vulnerability passing like a cloud over the sun. Tomorrow, 3 p.m. Don't be late. And fresh meat? Whatever training you think you have, whatever moves you think you know, they won't be enough. Not against what my father made me. He walked away, leaving Harmony standing by her car in the gathering darkness. She thought about the boy under the monster, about cycles of violence spinning through generations, about children paying protection money and teachers learning to cower. Tomorrow would break those cycles, one way or another. At home, she went through her nightly routine with mechanical precision. Shower, dinner, lesson planning for classes she might not teach again. Normal activities that felt surreal given what waited 12 hours away. At midnight, she stood before her closet. In the back, behind winter coats and forgotten dresses, hung a garment bag she hadn't touched in 4 years. Black canvas. Unremarkable. The zipper protested as she opened it, releasing the ghost scent of sweat and blood and chalk dust. Inside, her old gear waited. Black compression, shirt and shorts. Hand wraps yellowed with age but still strong. The guards and gloves she'd worn in her last fight, the one that had sent Carla Mendez to the ICU for 3 weeks, the one that had made Harmony swear never again. She touched the fabric, remembering the weight of expectations, the roar of crowds, the moment when Mendez's eyes rolled back, when her body went limp, when the referee was too slow, and Harmony's ground strikes were too fast, and for 30 seconds she'd become the monster her trainers wanted. Never again. She'd promised, holding Mendez's hand in the hospital. I'll find another way. But tomorrow, another way seemed impossible. Tomorrow, a different kind of monster waited. One who hurt children. One who destroyed futures. One who needed to be stopped. She zipped the bag closed but didn't return it to the closet. Instead, she placed it by her bedroom door. Ready. Waiting. Just in case. Sleep came in fragments, punctuated by dreams of cages and blood, and Luna's terrified eyes. By dawn, she was awake, staring at the ceiling, counting heartbeats. 80,000 students would watch today. 800 would witness. 12 would hope. 1 would fall. The only question was which one. The morning of reckoning arrived, wrapped in unnatural silence. Jefferson High felt like a held breath. 800 students moving through hallways, with the careful steps of people navigating a minefield. Teachers huddled in groups, voices low, eyes darting. Even the usual chaos of teenage life seemed muted, suppressed under the weight of what would happen at 3 p.m. Harmony entered through the main doors at 7:30, carrying her usual teacher's bag and a black gym bag that drew stares like a magnet. She dressed simply, professional blazer over a tank top, dress pants that looked normal but allowed full range of motion, hair pulled back in a tight bun that wouldn't provide handholds. Miss Granger, Principal Stevens materialized from his office. Arade appearance. His thin face was slick with sweat despite the morning chill. We need to talk about this situation. No? Harmony said pleasantly, not breaking stride. We don't. You can't seriously intend to fight a student. The liability alone. I intend to defend myself when attacked. Harmony corrected. Which, given Harold's history, seems inevitable. Will you be calling the police when it happens? Or will you hide in your office like you did when he broke Henderson's ribs? Stephen's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. That's not... the situation is complex. No, it's simple. You've allowed a 17-year-old to terrorize this school for 3 years. You've let him run a protection racket. You've watched him assault teachers and students while you cowered behind bureaucracy and fear. She stopped, turning to face him fully. Today, that ends, with or without your help. She left him standing there, wringing his hands like Lady Macbeth. Her morning classes were exercises in surrealism. Students attended, but nobody focused on lessons. They watched her like she was a death row inmate eating her last meal. Some with pity, some with morbid fascination. A few, like Luna and Mason, with something that might have been hope. During second period, while explaining the themes of courage in To Kill a Mockingbird, she noticed Ronald Winters in the back row. Not his usual class. He sat perfectly still, observing her with those calculating eyes. Sometimes, Harmony said, continuing her lesson but looking directly at Ronald. Standing up to injustice requires more than words. Sometimes it requires action. Sometimes it requires sacrifice. And sometimes, she paused, letting the words settle, it requires showing strength to those who only understand strength. Ronald nodded slowly, then slipped out as quietly as he'd entered. Lunch was when Marcus Pottery arrived. Harmony was in her classroom, not eating, just sitting in meditation when the temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. She opened her eyes to find a mountain of a man filling her doorway. 6'5", 300 pounds of prison-built muscle, facial tattoos that told stories of violence in a language of ink and scar tissue. Harold's father, the puppet master, so, Marcus said, his voice like gravel in a cement mixer. You're the teacher who thinks she can discipline my boy. Harmony didn't stand, didn't react, just studied him with the same calm she'd shown his son. Mr. Pottery, I'd say it's a pleasure, but we both know that would be a lie. He entered uninvited, each step deliberate, testing the floor like it might give way under his mass. Up close, she could see Harold's features buried under years of hard living, could see where the boy might have gone if genetics and circumstance had been kinder. You know what I do to people who disrespect my family? Marcus asked conversationally, examining her desk, picking up a paperweight shaped like an apple. I imagine it's unpleasant. Unpleasant. He tested the word, seemed to find it amusing. Last man who laid hands on my boy. They found him in the river, took dental records to identify what was left. He set the paperweight down with careful precision. Course. That was before I found Jesus. Now I'm reformed. Productive member of society. Pay my taxes. Run legitimate businesses. Like your son's protection racket? His smile was all teeth and no warmth. Kids these days? Entrepreneurial spirit. Can't fault them for showing initiative. I can fault them for assault, extortion, terror. Big words. Marcus circled her desk. A predator sizing up prey. You got proof? Witnesses? Or just accusations from a teacher who's about to have a very bad accident? That's when Harmony smiled. And something in that smile made Marcus pause. It was the smile of someone who'd heard threats before. Who'd faced down bigger monsters in darker places. Mr. Pottery, she said quietly. I've been threatened by professionals. Men who made you look like a Sunday school teacher. Men who kept their promises about pain and suffering. And yet, she gestured to herself. Here I sit, unbroken, unbowed, teaching comparative literature to teenagers. What does that tell you? Marcus studied her for a long moment. Then his eyes widened slightly. Recognition, or just calculation? You're not just some bleeding heart teacher. He said slowly. You're trained. Military? Does it matter? It might. See, I respect strength. Warriors recognize warriors. And you, he tilted his head. You move like someone who's been in real fights. Not sport, not competition. Real fights. The kind where referees don't stop things when they should. Harmony said nothing. Interesting. Marcus backed toward the door. This changes things. Makes it more fun. Tell you what. Teacher, I'll make sure it's fair. Just you and my boy. No interference. May the best monster win. I'm not a monster. His laugh was like breaking glass. Everyone's a monster. Teacher. Some just hide it better. But push hard enough. Hurt deep enough. Threaten what they care about. He gestured at her students' empty desks. And the monster always comes out to play. He left. But his presence lingered like smoke. Harmony sat in the silence. Knowing he was right about one thing. Everyone had a monster inside. The question was whether you fed it or fought it. At 2:45. She changed in the faculty bathroom. Off came the professional facade. On went the compression shirt that had seen hundreds of training sessions. The pants that allowed for high kicks and ground movement. She wrapped her hands slowly, methodically, each loop of cloth, a ritual of preparation. Charleston found her there, ancient eyes wide. Child, what are you doing? What needs to be done? This isn't, you can't fight that boy. He's a monster. No. Harmony corrected, checking her wraps. He's a bully who's never faced consequences. There's a difference. His father made a deal. No interference. Just Harold and me. Charleston gripped her arm with surprising strength. You don't understand. I've seen that boy train. In the gym after hours, his father teaching him things. Horrible things. Ways to hurt people that don't heal. Ways to break more than bones. Harmony covered the old woman's hand with her own. Trust me, please. I know what I'm doing. Do you? Do you really? Because once you start this, there's no stopping. Violence only breeds more violence. Sometimes, Harmony said gently, violence is the only language bullies understand. And sometimes, someone needs to speak it fluently enough to say no more. She left Charleston crying in the bathroom, prayers falling from her lips like rain. The parking lot was a coliseum. Students formed a massive circle, 3 deep in some places. Someone had even brought bleachers from the gym. Teachers watched from windows, torn between duty and curiosity. Local police cars sat at the periphery, officers conveniently looking the other way. Harold waited in the center, stripped to the waist, showcasing muscles that belonged on a grown man. His crew flanked him, all wearing matching black shirts with Pottery Patrol printed on the back. Subtle. The crowd parted as Harmony approached. Whispers followed her like waves. She actually came. Dead woman walking. $10 says she doesn't last 30 seconds. Look at Harold's face. He's going to kill her. But some voices carry different notes. She doesn't look scared. Something's different about how she walks. Is it just me, or does she look Dangerous? Harmony entered the circle, rolling her shoulders. Loosening up, the afternoon sun beat down mercilessly, turning the asphalt into a furnace. Perfect. Heat she knew. Heat she'd fought in before. Rules? She asked simply. Harold laughed. Rules? Fresh meat wants rules? He spreaded his arms wide, playing to the crowd. Fine. Rule 1. I hit you until you don't get up. Rule 2. When you beg me to stop, I decide if I feel merciful. Rule 3. After today, you never come back to Jefferson High. Counter proposal, Harmony said, her voice carrying clearly. No rules. No time limit. Fight ends when someone can't continue or verbally submits. Your crew stays out of it. Deal? Harold's grin widened. Deal. Your funeral. They circled each other. 2. Predators testing distance. Harold moved like his father had taught him. Weight balanced. Hands high. Not a street fighter's stance. Trained. Dangerous. But Harmony moved like water. Like smoke. Like something that had learned movement in places where mistakes meant more than points lost. Harold attacked first. A lightning jab that would have broken most faces. Harmony slipped it by millimeters. The wind from his fist kissing her cheek, he followed with a cross. Then a hook. Textbook combinations delivered with frightening power. She evaded them all. Not retreating but not engaging. Testing. Measuring. Learning. Stop running, Harold snarled. Frustration already building. I'm not running. Harmony replied calmly. I'm teaching. Lesson 1. Anger makes you stupid. He charged. Attempting to use his size advantage, Harmony pivoted, redirected his momentum, and sent him stumbling past. The crowd gasped, as Harold barely kept his feet. Lesson 2. She continued. Still calm. Bigger isn't always better. Harold spun, throwing a haymaker that would have decapitated her if it connected. It didn't. Harmony ducked under. Her first offensive move, a simple palm strike to his solar plexus. Not hard. Just enough to steal his breath. Harold wheezed, doubling over. The crowd went silent. Lesson 3. Breathing is important. Shut up. Harold straightened. Rage replacing strategy. He came at her like a berserker, throwing combinations that had demolished trained fighters in his father's basement. But Harmony wasn't there. She flowed around his attacks like they were choreographed, occasionally redirecting a punch or nudging him off balance. To the crowd, it looked like magic. To the few who understood fighting, it looked like mastery. You're not even trying, Harold screamed, sweat already pouring down his face. Fight me. Why? Harmony asked. You're doing a fine job fighting yourself. It was true. His wild swings were tiring him. His rage was burning through his stamina. His frustration was destroying his technique. Within 3 minutes, Harold Pottery, terror of Jefferson High, was gasping like a beached fish. That's when Marcus's training kicked in. Harold suddenly stopped, centered himself, and his eyes went cold. The rage disappeared, replaced by something worse. Calculation. The monster his father had built. His next attack was different. Measured. Brutal. A low kick to her knee that Harmony barely checked. A elbow aimed at her temple that she ducked by inches. Dirty boxing. Prison yard techniques. The real Harold. The dangerous one. Better. Harmony acknowledged, giving ground for the first time. Your father taught you well. He taught me everything. Harold said, his voice different now, emotionless. How to hurt. How to break. How to win. He feinted high. Went low. Nearly caught her with a takedown that would have ended things badly. But Harmony spravled, her wrestling instincts still sharp, and pushed him away. Did he teach you why? She asked. Why doesn't matter. Only winning matters. Wrong lesson. Harold came again. And this time, Harmony couldn't completely evade. His fist grazed her cheek, spinning her slightly. The crowd roared. Smelling blood, Harold pressed his advantage, throwing combinations that would have hospitalized normal people. But Harmony wasn't normal people. She weathered the storm, blocking what she couldn't avoid, rolling with impacts to minimize damage. And she waited, patient as stone, calm as deep water, because she could see what Harold couldn't. His breathing was labored. His movements, while dangerous, were slowing. 3 years of bullying helpless victims hadn't prepared him for someone who could defend themselves. Someone who could take his best shots and keep standing. Getting tired? Harmony asked, spitting a small amount of blood from a split lip. Shut up. Each word came between gasps. Your father ever tell you about endurance? About what happens when the adrenaline fades, when the anger burns out, when all that's left is will? Harold threw another combination, but it was sluggish. Harmony slipped inside his guard for the first time. Delivered 3 quick shots to his body. Nothing devastating. Just enough to hurt. To send a message? The mighty Harold Pottery stumbled backward, clutching his ribs. Laissons faire, Harmony said, advancing for the first time. Everyone has limits. No, Harold charged one more time. Despérate now. The crowd could feel the shift. The predator becoming prey. Harmony met him head on, caught his wild right hand, used his momentum, and threw him with a perfect hip toss. Harold hit the asphalt hard, air exploding from his lungs. Before he could recover, she had him in a submission hold, her legs controlling his body, her arms threatening a choke. He couldn't escape. Submit, she said quietly, almost gently. Never, he struggled, but she'd locked it in perfectly. His face turned red, then purple. Submit. Harold, this doesn't have to end badly. His crew started forward, but Ronald Winters stepped in front of them. She won fair. He said simply, anyone interferes. They go through me. Betrayal and oxygen deprivation battled across Harold's face. His struggles weakened, his eyes started to roll, and Harmony let go. She released the choke, rolled away, and stood. Harold gasped on the ground, coughing, defeated but conscious. The crowd stood frozen, unable to process what they'd witnessed. Laissons faire, Harmony said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Strength isn't about hurting others. It's about protecting them, even from themselves. She turned to walk away. Behind her, Harold struggled to his knees, reaching for something in his pocket. Metal glinted in the sun. A knife. Look out, Luna screamed. But Harmony was already moving. She spun, caught Harold's wrist as he lunged, and with a motion too fast for most to follow, disarmed him. The knife clattered across the asphalt. Harold found himself on his back again, Harmony's knee on his chest, his own hand twisted at an angle that promised breaking if he moved. That, she said, her voice finally showing emotion, was a mistake. Do it. Harold gasped. Break it. Show them what you really are. Monster. Harmony looked down at him, at this broken boy pretending to be a man, at this victim who'd become a victimizer, at this scared child hiding behind violence. No, she said. I'm a teacher, and class is dismissed. She stood, leaving Harold sprawled on the asphalt, but before she could take a step, another voice cut through the crowd. Impressive. Marcus Pottery pushed through the circle, clapping slowly. Very impressive. You had him, could have ended him, but you showed mercy. He smiled. And it was worse than any threat. Weakness. Dad. No. Harold croaked from the ground. You said no interference. That was before she humiliated you. Before she made our family look weak. Marcus cracked his knuckles. The sound like gunshots. Now I fix your mess. Like always. You want to fight me? Harmony asked, exhaustion creeping into her voice. Fine. But first, you should know something. The cars pulled away, taking 3 years of terror with them. The crowd remained, unsure what to do with their newfound freedom. As the sun set over Jefferson High, painting the sky in shades of victory and promise, Harmony Granger walked back into the school, not as fresh meat, not as a fighter, but as what she'd always been underneath it all, a teacher, and tomorrow, she had lessons to plan.